Today's episode of the E&G podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Clothing by Owl. All you Bachelor fans will recognize this name as they are the company behind the hugely popular Wine, Bachelor, and Yoga Pants tank top. What you may not know is that they give back a percentage of every item sold to Animal Rescue, and that notable Bachelor alums like JoJo Fletcher, Caitlin Bristow, Lauren Bushnell, Ben Higgins, and Nick Vale are all huge supporters. We're happy to offer our listeners 20% off when you visit clothingbyowl.com. Simply add the discount code ENG, that's EANDG, to save on all your Bachelor gear. And be sure to follow them on social media at Clothing by Owl.
Jeff and I are doggy dads, which is why we're so excited to be partnering with our newest sponsor, Puppies Make Me Happy. They have a super simple mission to make the happiest clothes on earth, which they do. And we know our listeners will love this brand just as much as we do. Plus, we're excited to help spread a little happiness ourselves by offering listeners 20% off all merchandise by using discount code ENG. That's EANDG at checkout. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Puppies Make Me Happy.
Welcome back to the E&G podcast. We were on a bit of a hiatus, sort of, because I was moving, but we're back. We're going to recap everything. We're going to recap the Men Tell All, the finale, the after the final rose, and then we got podcasts coming. We got great interviews coming up with some special guests everyone's really going to like and be familiar with, and also we're going to start doing recaps of Bachelor in Paradise. This is my first go-around watching the show. Ian, welcome in.
What is up, man? You've been living in some archaic times with no internet access? No internet?
I want to take this time to talk about someone who's not a sponsor, AT&T Uverse. They can go fuck themselves. That is the worst company ever.
Hey, man, we don't want to block them from being a sponsor in the future. So you watch your mouth, Jeff. Okay.
Their internet speeds are slow and they don't come install. Go ahead.
But Time Warner, they came through for you, man. So I'm happy. So yeah, welcome back to everybody. We've been off for about a week now. We did, however, put up our interview with Robbie, which has gotten an amazing response. And so we appreciate you guys reaching out to us and continuing to reach out to us over email. We also have an Instagram that just popped up, and so you can follow us. It's at ENG Podcast on Instagram. And what's cool about that is we'll post there all updates in terms of these new interviews we have whenever we post a new episode. And then last but not least, we have, if you can subscribe to us on iTunes, that helps a ton. And then with our new channel on YouTube as well, the Robbie interview is up there. And so you can simply just search ENG Podcast. You'll see the Robbie interview, which again was a ton of fun. So we're coming on the heels of that. Obviously, everybody who's watched the show knows that Robbie was the runner-up. But damn, he was a good guy, man.
And he also said, if you listen to the interview, he also said he's more than happy to come back. So we're going to hold him to that for sure.
Absolutely. But I think we have to start, before we get into these past couple days of episodes, with the Men Tell All. Obviously, this was last week, right? But it was a fun trip down memory lane a little bit, right? So just to kind of talk about the season at a very high level, I'm going to throw some stuff at you, Jeff, and then we can just get into some conversation, and then we'll move into what we just saw play out. But really, the Men Tell All was Chad, the Chad show.
And it really was, yeah.
They made it a point for that dude to be the star of it, right? He had his own trailer. They showed him walking in very dramatically. It was a little over the top.
A little over the top. And I think what was interesting is that, and I mean, we'll get to more of this later, I guess, but Chad, his whole thing is calling out. One, I just want to say, those guys genuinely really dislike that guy. Like, there's a lot of guys, like, I thought it was kind of like, he's kind of like a douche, whatever. A lot of different guys in that house that you didn't even really see during the season don't like him and really wanted to let him know how much they don't like him. Like Grant, who always seemed like a laid-back, whatever, cool guy, like didn't seem fazed by stuff. He seems to hate Chad. And
absolutely.
We all knew Alex didn't like him, but then there were other guys and then there were guys that didn't like Alex and stuff. We'll get into that. But the thing about Chad I wanted to say is that guy's whole deal is calling out people like, oh, they're not here for the right reasons. And he's being exposed lately as just being the most fame-seeking dude of all of them by far.
by far.
That's his only thing.
Yeah.
He just wants to be famous. He wants to be the Bachelor, maybe. He wants to, all that stuff.
He came on with a very clear goal in mind, which was to try to just like hijack the show, right? And just make it about him. And guess what? It worked. It totally worked.
Well, they also teed that up for him with the whole like putting him out there in the chair and making it about him for.
Oh, absolutely. But it just kind of, that's like one of those things, he has this behavior about him, this destructive behavior, whatever you want to call it. And ABC is basically saying like, yep, keep it coming. And like the fans love it. And honestly, it is funny. You have to laugh, but I guess if you're in the room or you have to deal with that guy face to face, it's a completely different dynamic. So I was not surprised at all by the feedback that the guys had for Chad, and that JoJo had as well, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, JoJo really didn't like him either. I feel like she probably started watching the show when it was airing and was like, oh, this guy was a total piece of shit. Behind
the scenes. It's like, so JoJo had 26 men this season. A bunch of the guys were back. I guess just real quick, sidebar, how many ladies do you think you could handle in this situation? Like 26 men. Wow. I forgot the number was that high. That was a lot of guys.
Yeah, I for some reason I thought it was 20, but 26. But how many guys they get rid of the first night? There's always like 3 or 4 go or something, or 2 go the first night.
Maybe even more than that. It might have been like 5 or 6, man, because it did feel like it was 20. I thought that was the number as well. That stood out to me. I was like, wow, JoJo had a lot of options. But it also, the other thing that was funny is that this is certainly when Chris Harrison makes the big bucks. Like, this is his time to shine. All season, he's kind of relegated to the background. He's doing some rose ceremonies. You have a Chris Harrison sighting when Evan wants to whine to somebody. But
yeah,
this is the time when it's like, all right, now it's time to be a professional host. I'm going to get up here, and that guy does a great job. I love seeing Chris Harrison just corral the group. So a couple other things talking about this Men Tell All episode. They introduce all the guys. Luke by far got the best applause, in my opinion. But surprising to me was that Wells and Chase both got really good like applauses as well. Like, they seem to be fan favorites.
I think Wells. This is what I think. For Chase, I don't really understand, to be honest. I guess more because I think at the very end, because even I felt really bad for the guy because he opened up.
Yeah,
but that's why I think people like him. Wells, I think Wells always he has a totally different look than every other guy in the house. So I think there were girls that watched the show who are like, they like that type of guy because he's a good looking guy and he seems like a nice, fun guy. So I think he has like a niche audience. I think with the Bachelorette fans or Bachelor fans, whatever, because he stands out. He's not a big fucking enormous white dude who works out all the time. He's more like the thin, hipstery looking guy who's, he's a cute dude, whatever, I just said cute dude, man. I said cute dude. I don't care.
Cute dude. That's on. That is being recorded right now. No, I agree. The Chase thing was interesting though, right? It's like, it is funny to see who the crowd is reacting to. And God, I love those cutaways of those women in the audience just like so into it.
Oh, dude, nodding their head as they go, as every talks.
Word. Yeah, every word is just like you're just hanging on. Yeah, it's great. It's great. And then they introduced the guys. They did a quick trip down memory lane, right? They were kind of recapping some of the key highlights from the season. So these were a couple that I wrote down, and I wanted to see if you just have a very quick response to these, right? So these are almost like quick hitting things. If you have anything that comes to mind that you want to say, and then I'll just skip to the next one. The first one they showed was the burning limo. Any thoughts on that? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, to bring the fire truck. Yeah, I remember. I talked about that on the other podcast. That was a total waste of a limo. There's like poor people. Every time I see like total waste of things, I always go, there's like people starving, and then we're just showing like, hey, we're gonna burn this limo just to set up the fact that we're doing a fun fireman thing today.
Totally. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because if anybody hadn't listened to that podcast, that was hilarious. We were chatting about that. And then they cut to Evan working out with Chad and Daniel, which was certainly one of my favorite parts of the season.
Yeah, that was all. That was just great editing. Like we always talk about the way they just juxtapose those guys. And like, hey, now we cut to these 2 buff guys. Now there's Evan doing just, squats in the praying pose.
Body weight squats. And then they had Evan's really shitty steroid story, which I kind of had forgotten how bad that was.
Let me tell you this, by the way, and I know this probably doesn't bother anybody like it bothers me. I can't fucking stand it when these guys go, Well, we were doing stand-up comedy. I was doing stand-up comedy. It's like, you're not a stand-up comedian, dude. You're not, what are you talking about? You're doing, that show wasn't even stand-up comedy, was it? It was just like, tell a story. Wasn't it supposed to tell like a sex story or something?
Yep.
So that's not stand-up comedy just because you're standing up and telling a story. Like when you give a speech at a banquet for like, hey, our high school football team, and I'm the captain. You're not doing stand-up comedy just because you're talking. Even if you throw in a joke or two, you're not doing stand-up comedy. Dude, I have the most bastardized profession there is on the planet.
It is. I'm glad that you went off on that little tangent, man, because it's worth repeating.
Everybody did. Oh, I've done stand-up comedy before. One time I had to talk in front of my family in the living room, and I told a joke, so it got a good response. I'm kind of a comedian.
Totally. And then they showed that clip of Derek talking to the guys, like the group of guys, and I was kicking myself for not asking Robbie that question. I completely forgot. Do you remember when he confronted the guys for ganging up on him? And they were all just like, what the hell are you talking about, Derek?
I forgot that Robbie was involved in that.
Oh, my God, dude. Because Derek then became a little bit of a punching bag. So Alex really took the lead there. And basically was like, called him a bitch to his face. And then they like cut back to the live audience and them sitting there, and it's like, yeah, you are one. It kind of got a little tense there for a second. It was that was pretty funny, man. Luke,
Derek is a bitch though, dude. Like, I don't know that guy, but I mean,
I'd
love to have him on to interview him, I guess, but I don't even know what I would ask him, because that guy, the reason he got super pissed was because they were naming themselves different flowers and he wasn't getting one. Like he wasn't involved into like, oh well, this guy's sunflower and this guy's this, and how come I'm not involved? You guys are like doing your own. It's like, wow, man. Really? Like, you never even went to camp? Like, have you never been around other people? Did you go to school growing up?
Totally. It's that was hilarious. I mean, a lot of this stuff was, that was the initial drama that they were focused on. I recall Luke kind of stepping up and being like, hey guys, like, let's talk about this. It's like, Luke is so mature.
Luke is so mature. Do you remember the part where, because a lot of those guys served in the military, and there's still some, gray areas on who actually served in war. I feel like a lot of them did, or all of them, but I don't know. So, but it's funny because they're talking about the way Alex was and the way Chad is and all this stuff, and then Luke goes, as someone who's like served in war, like, you either like come home this way or you come home like a different way. Like, everyone handles it different. And I was just like, that guy really just said the most obvious shit ever, but I was like, I love Luke. I love listening to Luke. He didn't say anything that smart. It's like, yeah, no shit, dude. Everyone handles it differently and everybody's a different type of person. I love you though, Luke. God, we gotta get that guy on.
And then Evan goes Trump analogy while describing Chad, and it was just like, what are you talking about, Evan? What are you saying? Don't follow up Luke with that.
That was right after that too, right?
I think it was right around that. I think it was right after. Dude, it was just funny.
Before we jump off talking about Chad at the men's law, I think I mentioned this to you in text. I lost, not that I like had respect for Chad on the show, but I always thought like, oh, like he's just kind of, telling like it is and whatever. And, maybe they're editing, or I've always said like, maybe they're editing around it. We've done some interviews where guys like, nah, he really is kind of just like an idiot, he's whatever. Yep. So what really bugged me on the Men Tell All is Chad wasn't just out there trying to tell it like it is. He was trying to be funny. Yeah. And he wasn't, you could tell when he's just being like a moron, people kind of laugh. But then when he's trying to be funny, it got really awkward multiple times. There's one time where he said, yeah, sometimes you choose apples when you should have chose pickles. You know what I mean? And it just got really awkward. And then Chris Harrison even goes, what? I've never heard that. And then,
he's like,
and then
that's
Chad,
a thing.
Yeah, and Chad goes, it's a saying.
It's a thing.
But he's like, he's saying everything like, wasn't that clever? Like, he has supreme confidence. But even when something fucking eats shit, he can't just go,
No. Well, I mean, at this point, I think it's pretty clear that he knows he's the villain. And so he's just playing into that like crazy. The crowd loved Chad at the Men Tell All. Like, he got a huge response when he walked in. And I love the producers playing that whistling music as he's walking. It's like, clearly he's not whistling, right? But it's like, let's just put that in there anyways. That was pretty funny. Chad, I mean, I agree with you, man. Some of the funnier things that I thought from the season that involved Chad were like his milk debate with Alex, but that wasn't necessarily even Chad. That was like Alex kind of in his reply and his interaction with Chad being like, don't like milk, don't need milk, like that. That cracked me
Dude,
the
what
fuck up,
what I
but-
really really liked on the Men Tell All was when they called out Evan, because I don't like Chad, dude,
Oh,
but
man.
like when they called out Evan
Yeah.
for lying about the push, and then
That
they
was
show
great.
it, and
Break
then
it down.
and they're like, let's watch it again, and Evan's like, yeah, right there, and everyone's like, no, 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 nothing was right there, dude. You pushed him, and then his whole thing was like, he didn't even move. It's like, well, yeah, because you're way smaller than him. That's like when people used to foul Shaq. Doesn't mean you could punch Shaq in the face and act like you didn't punch him just because he's so much bigger than you. He didn't go down.
Totally. Yeah, man. The Evan stuff.
I
Evan
don't
stuff
like
was
Evan,
just
dude.
funny.
He hasn't responded to our interview request, and he's a
No.
fucking squirrel, dude. I don't like
And I
that.
had a friend send me the GoFundMe. And so, for any listener who hasn't seen this, there was a GoFundMe. I want to give the guy credit. His name was Jordan Whitmire. Had created a page that was Get Evan Bass a New Red V Neck, which is so fucking funny that he
Yeah.
put that up there.
And they have plenty of money for it.
They raised their goal. It was shared over like 60,000 times. Evan is just one of these guys. I think people have to agree, right? I mean, we're not the only ones out here. I'm not, questioning his character, but he doesn't fit in with these dudes. Like, he's just clearly the odd man out in this situation, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, I don't know, maybe he knows somebody. That's how he's getting on the shows. Or
I have no idea.
maybe he's helped a guy with erectile dysfunction who is a high-up producer on the show.
The director. Yeah, no, it's interesting, man. The Chad stuff, too, that,
Dude,
where
Chad made no sense. There's a couple times during that mental
Yeah, no,
all
go
where he
ahead.
made no sense. One time he said, first off, he's trying to act like Robbie was not over his ex, right? But then
Yeah.
he also says, all I can say is that Robbie's not upset about me dating Hope. It's like, well, cool, dude. Then that totally aligns with Robbie's story
Absolutely.
that he doesn't he's over his ex. And then you're just trying to be a dick by being like, hey, I'm with your ex. And he's like, all right, cool. Like, you're kind of just annoying. There was another time where he's had like a huge Freudian slip when he's talking about Grant's ex, right? Grant's ex and Robbie's ex.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, believe me, they didn't go after me. And then he goes, and everyone laughs because he said it, not what he was trying to say, but it was probably honest. And he goes, wait, no, other way around.
Totally.
It's like, yeah,
Dude,
you went after them because you're trying to be a douche. Like,
this is what I was going to talk about too. This is perfect. So piggybacking on what you just said, Chad said that people were talking about him constantly, blah, blah, blah. It's always his thing he goes back on. But then he also explains a lot of what Robbie was telling us too, right? That he had met. So his explanation for the Grant thing was that he met his girl after the show and he met Robbie's girl after the show. And the main reason he wanted to go meet these girls was the fact that he felt like they were screwed over by both Robbie and Grant. And that all along, a guy like Robbie was really a bad dude, that he had, quote, threatened his ex, Hope, and that guys like Jordan, who at the time we didn't know if Jordan was going to win or not, just wanted to be there because of fame. And so he's calling all these guys out. He's questioning their character. He's saying Robbie threatened his ex. It's like, dude, pump the brakes, man. If we've learned one thing from talking to all these people offline and communicating, whether it's in the interviews or what have you, it's that these guys are all good dudes at the end of the day, right? Like, this is a fun experience. And Chad seems to be that one guy who's just like really there for the wrong reasons, more than anybody else.
he really wants to be famous. I like the part too, and
Yeah.
Nick, who was thought was like kind of Mr. Forgettable on the season, and he got up.
Steps
Remember,
up.
he wanted to fight
Yeah.
Chad,
Totally.
which by the way, good theatrics, man. Like, anyone in their right mind thinks, oh, are they really about to go at it? Are we about to see a fist fight on Men Tell All? And then
Yeah.
Chad totally backs down and goes, you want to fight me? I'm pretty sure we shouldn't do that both in dress shoes. It's like, this guy's always got an excuse when someone actually challenges him, which makes me
Totally.
think he doesn't even want to fight anybody, which is fine
Totally.
because I don't want to fight anybody either. I'm not a fighter, but he likes to act like he was going to fight everyone.
Yeah, that's
a weird thing. Why do you want to act like you want to fight everyone when deep down you don't want to fight anyone, but you want to be known as the guy who's acting like you want? That just doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense.
It's like the
No,
guy
it
who
really
tells
doesn't.
everyone he's cheating on his chick, but he's not cheating on his chick, and he's like a great dude deep down. But he wants to let everyone think like, yeah, man, I cheat on my girl. Like, why would you want that to be the thing that you're labeled with?
Yeah, he's putting that storyline out there. I don't know. I'm burnt out on Chad, I think, a little bit. He's also on Bachelor in Paradise. They were teasing the hell out of that show during the entire Men Tell All. A couple other guys got some moments, right? So we saw Chase and Luke get their time with JoJo in terms of like, hey, getting closure, basically. I mean, that's kind of what it came down to. There wasn't really anything like I felt like was nuts coming out of that. I mean, Chase asked her point blank, like, why would you even, have me show up to the fantasy suite if you knew you were going to send me home? And like, of course, that's shitty.
How
right?
funny that would have been if JoJo was like, oh, well, they told me it would build drama. It just looks at him stone faced and he's like, starts crying like, oh, I loved you. I opened up. I like that guy, Chase. Dude, I did not like Chase at all, as you can recall. And then the very end, I fucking really liked that guy. And she shit all over him, man.
He's great. I mean, he came out basically though at the end when he did get his time with JoJo and said he learned a ton. He's, learned to like love again or like tell someone he loves them. So, hey man, power to Chase like that, or props to Chase rather. That's awesome. That's great. Luke said a lot of the same stuff too. And Luke, man, that guy has a way with words, right? He mentioned again that he was in love with her, but he never got the chance to love her, which is like, that's very well said, in my opinion. He's good, man.
Isn't it weird how everybody was shocked that Luke went home when he did? I don't think anybody thought he was going home when he did.
Agreed. No one did.
I mean, we didn't, but I was surprised everyone had that same feeling. Even Chris Harris, I think, said like, "Yeah, we didn't expect Luke to go home when he did."
He said that too. He's like, I thought I would at least get one more week or whatever. Like,
and JoJo doubled down on the whole. He didn't say he's in love. It's like, wow, man, this guy put the heart out in the field and said, "You're my world." It's like
he did everything in his power. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, he did skate around that word. So if she had expressed it to him, which we didn't necessarily see, but if she had been like, "Hey, Luke, I need to hear," vocally, if she had said that, then that's one thing. But if she was just assuming that he should know that, that's like female logic a little bit, right? I mean, like we've been there, where it's just like you say one thing, but you really mean another, and it's like, I'm a guy, I don't work like that. You need to tell me what you want me to do, or like, what you're feeling specifically. So, nah, man, it was good seeing those guys again. There was a couple other funny moments, like Vinny's mom popped up. They went through some bloopers, but nothing too crazy. It was a lot of tease for the finale.
Is Vinny's mom exactly who I said his family's probably like? Remember, on like the first episode?
Absolutely. That was so funny, man.
You missed out on a great guy there, JoJo, or whatever she said.
You do your thing again about what was his name, Vincenzo?
Oh. No, I just think I was surprised he didn't have a bunch of fucking cousins in velour jumpsuits head to toe with crowbars. Like, this fucking guy Chad? Fucking Chad? Was he talk fucking shit about Vinny? Come on, hey, fucking Petey, Paulie, let's go. Fucking Vincenzo's in trouble. And then fucking Joe Pesci shows up. Hey, Chad, what do you mean you're funny? Funny how? Like, what, I fucking make you laugh? I amuse you? Chad's like, oh, you're a funny guy. Funny the way you tell the story. It's funny. What do you fucking mean? Funny how? Want a fucking clown?
I'm here to amuse you. Oh man, that's so funny. All right, cool, man. So that was Men Tell All. We're still waiting to see who the Bachelor is going to be. I think the rumor mill's out there. Well, dude, I mean, I've heard that it's going to be like Luke or Chase is who I've heard, at least being rumored. So dude, I don't know.
Like you said that to me the other day. I just said you said that to me. You said that to me the other day. I'm trying to work on my likes, everybody. I'm trying to cut them down. I don't see how it's not going to be Robbie. I mean, Luke would be an awesome Bachelor, except I honestly think, and didn't we ask Robbie about this? He's just like a really great guy, but he's very serious all the time. And I think Robbie said to us on the interview, he's like, he just kind of read books and slept a lot. And I don't know how entertaining or like fun his dates would be if there's a bunch of girls dating him and he's just, you're so pretty. I really like looking into your eyes. And she's like, all right, cool. Like, we're on jet skis. What the fuck? Can we have a little fun here? I think Robbie is a more fun guy. And I think if he wants it, he should be the Bachelor.
That's the thing, man. I have to assume that maybe Robbie doesn't necessarily want it, right? It didn't seem... I don't know. I mean, I guess he also went the furthest, and he's still trying to figure out, dealing with all his JoJo stuff as well, just getting closure. But Man, you nailed it because Luke, that was our criticism, right? Is he too serious? Now we've gotten that confirmed by a couple people. And someone like Chase, it was a question of personality, right? I mean, none of these guys, Robbie, Luke, or Chase, they're all good looking guys. They're all cool guys, right? But you do need to have you need to have some chops. I mean, you need to kind of have that Ben Higgins thing, right? To be the Bachelor, you got to be able to pull it off, right?
Yeah.
So that's the intangibles. So I don't know,
All
man.
right, dude. We'll figure it
We'll
out.
see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. So then that brings us to the finale, right? So we had the live audience. We had, everybody pumped. Chad was there. The Bachelor in Paradise cast was there. Ben and Lauren were there. It was interesting. And then we went straight to Phuket, right? And we've been there before together, I think, right? Thailand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty sure we passed through Phuket. So
Phuket.
they showed JoJo. JoJo looked great, and her big thing at the beginning was that she's in love with both these guys, and so now it's time for her family to weigh in, right? And then Jordan got there first, and hilarity ensued.
Yeah.
Do you have it? What was your thoughts on Jordan?
I honestly, man, and this is the thing, I could be totally wrong. We talked to Robbie, and he said Jordan's like this great guy and everything. That guy seems phony to me still. Even, I know we're not jumping ahead, but even after the final rose, everything about that guy, I just feel like he's always selling me something or just giving a canned speech to the team before the game, like, hey, it's going to be great. We're going to go out there. We're going to blah, blah, blah. We really enjoyed it. Like, or he's giving like a post-game press conference, like right he's on the field where they're like, hey, you just won the game. That was a great fourth quarter drive there. And he's like, yeah, the guys really came together. We practiced hard all week, and, the hard work paid off, and that's a play that we run in the last 2 minutes, 2-minute drill. It's like fucking everything about that guy. Maybe I could be totally wrong. Some people just seem phony. Like, I've been told that I seem, people think that I'm kind of like lying a lot or something, and when I'm not lying. And so maybe it's just a thing. Maybe it's just he seems that way to me, but I thought like he brought them all hats or something, right? He's like, this is something.
Yeah.
Even that seemed like, hey guys, we're doing this thing. It's time for this thing. We do this in my family. It's just, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just the way he talks. Some people talk in a certain way that doesn't seem genuine to me.
So this is my thing. I agree with you, and this is where the only thing I'm going to say about that is that clearly we're not alone, because the response, and they even mentioned it after the final rose, is that is how Jordan came off. I think people were pretty shocked that JoJo was so adamant about Jordan, but she really was, man, from the jump. I mean, he got the first impression rose, and she's been all about him. And so we'll talk about the families real quick a little bit more.
By the way, I don't think that the phoniness thing has anything to do with. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's Aaron Rodgers' brother, so that must mean that he's." I don't put any stock in that. I think that's stupid. I think it's dumb when people have a famous person in their family, so everyone assumes you're the same as that person. Like, I have a brother, you have a brother. I'm nothing like my brother in a lot of ways, every way, and he's nothing like me. So, if I got famous, would my brother be labeled as, oh, you're Jeff Keith's brother, so you must be like X, Y, and Z? Like, he's nothing like that. So
totally,
I don't put any stock in that. I just think it's the way he talks, which, by the way, he could just be always super composed. I don't know.
And I think he might be, man. I think that's just how he is.
I think he's just really polished. He just want to be like a really polished off guy.
He's a polished dude. I mean, he's a confident guy, and he should be. I mean, that's some of what Robbie was talking about too. It's like you have to have that confidence, and I'm sure Jordan probably had the same mindset as Robbie did, right? Where it's like no one else exists in that situation. Like, you cannot take stock in what's happening with other guys and their relationships. You can just focus on yourself, and that's why it always seems like he's pretty grounded whenever they do show him, and they like kind of talk about where their relationship's at. Jordan comes off pretty real. I mean, he's not like sugarcoating it or telling her what she wants to hear necessarily. He's being pretty upfront, even at the risk of losing JoJo. I mean, he did that all the way until the end.
Yeah, in the finale. I will say that. I totally agreed with the guy, and I was mad at JoJo when she goes, oh, why, you didn't ask my parents, whatever, all this stuff, when she got all weird out about that. And what he was saying made total fucking sense. He's saying, well, there's another guy still, and basically what he's saying is like, I'm unsure because you're dating two guys, I'm dating one girl, and she couldn't even wrap her mind around that. She was just going, I just don't I don't get it. Like, I don't get why it's like, what don't you get? You're dating another guy, JoJo. He's not fully secure yet. Doesn't mean he's an insecure loser. It just means you are dating another guy. He knows that guy. He knows he's a nice guy. He knows he's a cool guy. He doesn't know where your head's at. So it's pretty hard for him to go 100% when you're going at the most 50.
I know. It's a great point. I mean, I guess just kind of wrapping up to the meeting with the parents from Jordan's perspective. So JoJo's mom mentioned that she thought that they were too much alike, JoJo and Jordan. That said, she loved him. And I think the dad and him not asking permission, it didn't ruin that whole exchange, right? I mean, like even with her brothers, it seemed like everybody really liked Jordan. But then when Robbie comes in on the heels of that, it's like, holy shit, like this guy Robbie is really shining through, right? I mean, he did a great job. He passed that mom test with flying colors.
He passed
right?
the whole family. How was it funny when the whole family was talking to JoJo and after they both were there?
Yeah.
They were all saying how much they like Robbie, and then she goes, so you guys are just like all about Robbie? And they're like, no, we didn't say that. It's like, yeah, you all just said that.
Totally. And hello, I would be too, right? Fucking Robbie made JoJo's dad cry by showing him how much he loved her, right? So it's like that guy is killing it. He did a great job. He did not. It wasn't like a hard sell. It was just him being himself. He was just being honest. He was just very open with his emotions, with his feelings. I was reminded that Robbie was the first person to tell JoJo that he was in love with her. Yeah. So, I mean, that just probably has to do more with Robbie's personality. But in that setting, it really did set him apart. And it was an interesting way to start that final episode because you're like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe Jordan is in a little bit of trouble because he's a little bit more reserved, whereas Robbie's just putting it all out there. So I don't know. It was interesting. It was interesting from a game perspective. I think I may have texted you this as well. But just speaking from a guy's perspective, you know, Jordan really did a good job of pulling JoJo's heartstrings throughout all the way until like the very, very end, right? Yeah. To where it was like, hey, not that he was like leading her on or anything, obviously, but he wouldn't fully commit, which as we know means that in return, JoJo is going to want that commitment that much more. Whereas Robbie had basically just been telling her now for weeks that he loved her. And so unfortunately for Robbie, in a lot of ways, that probably put him at a little bit of a disadvantage, right?
Definitely did. I said to Christy, I was like, and even Christy said, this guy, the one that's kind of harder to get, of course she's going to be for that guy.
Totally. So anyway, so that was interesting. And then each guy gave JoJo, they had their alone time. I didn't really have anything to mention there, just outside the fact that it's funny that Jordan, his dates, man, if you look back on his dates, are always like the shit. They're always like the best date of wherever they are, which also leads me to believe that she had probably known that it was going to be him all along. And this finale was not really that much different. So Robbie got a date. They went down to the beach, but it looked like they kind of just, they met up. They walked down to the beach. It was really pretty and it was cool. And they were hanging out and had a great time. But then like for Jordan, it's like, hey, we're going to take these kayaks through this really cool place and go to this deserted beach in these caves and like, go to, you know what I mean? It was just like, wow. I feel like that's happened a couple of times now. So that was funny.
Jordan definitely, it almost seemed like he was the Bachelor and JoJo was competing for him.
Competing. He flipped it on her. Yeah. Well played. And then they both gave JoJo some gifts during their alone time. So I think, Robbie gave her like some pictures. And I think Jordan, I don't recall what Jordan gave her offhand, but they also then gave her a note as well, right? So like going into picking out the rings, it was like their one final thing to write everything down. And Robbie's note, I don't know if you caught this, but Robbie's note was like a couple pages long. It looked like it was like multiple pages handwritten. Yeah. And Jordan's note was just like a card. It was like, hey, love you.
Dude, that's no, but he also wrote in his card how he was so bummed about that he like let her down or something by not asking. I was trying to read I should have just paused the TV to read the entire card, which I'm sure a super fan would have done. James S. would have done that.
Yeah.
But
totally.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a personality thing, though, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's just a personality thing. One guy's more, verbose and wordy, and, he wants to lay every single thing out. The other guy is short
to the point. Yeah. So what did you think? What did you think about the rings? Which ring did you like more?
I remember there was one ring. I think it was the one. Oh no, the one that she actually ended up getting. I thought was pretty. But I just remember the ones that they were looking at. I remember the first one where he's like, "Whoa!" I forgot who that was. I think it was Jordan.
Robbie picked first, if I remember correctly.
I think the first ring that Jordan looked at, he was like, "Whoa!" or something, and I just thought, "Oh, I don't like that ring." It had too many halos, and it was too. Oh, it was a princess cut one.
Yeah.
Was that Robbie? Was that Robbie or Jordan? Because I did not.
I absolutely think that Jordan picked out the better ring in terms of just a ring, for whatever that's worth. Yeah. Robbie's was nice. It was like there was a lot going on. Like there was the main cut diamond, and then there was like it was flanked on either side by like these square diamonds. I think it was just it was a lot.
I think that was the princess cut one. I didn't like that one. You know, hey, this is a little side note. What do they do with the guy who gets the ring and they don't propose? Not only is he heartbroken, the guy that gave him the ring goes, "Hey man, I know it's a bad time, but can I get that ring back?"
We're going to need that. I literally had that same question down. I'm like, do these guys get to keep these rings? These are like
I'm pretty sure they don't.
$80,000 rings, you know? It's like
where did you find out they're $80,000?
Google. Well, my fiance was the one who looked it up. She's like, I got to know how much these rings are. She looked it up. So It's a Google away, man. But yeah, I believe the one that Jordan ended up proposing with was $80,000, if I recall correctly.
Jesus.
So it's pretty nuts, man. But so that's a TBD question. I guess we can ask Robbie when he joins us again. But I mean, with that said, poor Robbie, like that sucked. It sucked to see him go down there with the confidence that he needed to go down there because, just of the situation, he starts talking and then she stops him before he can get down on one knee. And when you saw that Robbie realized what was happening, like they panned to his face, that was hard, man. That was really hard because Robbie clearly was in love with JoJo.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
definitely.
I mean, yeah, not much else to add there. We'll talk a little bit about the post show, but Jordan obviously is the winner. And again, I mean, I think it was pretty clear since day one. Nothing really changed there.
Man, I've only watched 2 seasons. I watched Ben's season and this season, and Lauren B was the one that it was clear Ben really liked from day one.
Absolutely, that's a good point. So. I mean, it's hard to dethrone the front runner, I guess. I mean, we've talked a little bit about front runners now. It's like Jordan, he was that guy since day one. I think there was immediate attraction, and then there was just like this cool factor. And again, it's worth mentioning that Jordan just did not really play into a lot of these same games. Like he didn't fall into the same pitfalls as some of these other guys. Like as much as the Chad stuff dominated early on and like even just the dynamics with other guys, you never really saw Jordan get involved in that stuff. Like the most drama that Jordan ever had was that time that JT tried to call him out, which was just weird.
Well, also Chad really was going after Jordan and said he's going to go find him.
But that was after. If you don't you remember Jordan like put his hand out to Chad? Hey Chad, like let's squash it. Like he tried to be the bigger man. Like he wasn't necessarily the guy like Alex, like instigating shit or whatever. So it's interesting. I mean, I think Jordan gets kind of a bad rap. I wish them well. So I guess now that the show's over, we'll see. But yeah, it's interesting, man. It was a fun season, to see how it all ended and everything. It was cool, and you saw that coming. So any closing thoughts, I guess, just on the proposal and just how that part ended?
Well, I mean, it's just not fun watch, especially after we talked to Robbie. So we knew he was like a really nice guy. To watch that guy being like he's proposing, and then JoJo said, I can't let you do it, which we all knew was going to happen because he walked out first.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know. Do they ever do it where she says yes to the first one they show, and then they go to the next guy, and she's like,
no,
and he's like, hey, why do you have a ring on your finger? What the fuck happened?
Can't do that. No, man. The only thing that's happened before is that it just doesn't even get to that point. So, like, maybe someone will just say, like, prior to even the walk down or the proposal, like, hey, this isn't going to work out. Like, I'm going to go with this other person, but I wanted to save you that moment, right? But you got to assume that ABC and the Bat, they want that moment to happen because that's where all the drama happens, right? Like if Robbie would have gotten down on one knee, that's the one thing I was waiting to see. Like, is JoJo going to let this dude get down on one knee to then say no? Like that would have been terrible. So it was good to see that she didn't let that happen.
What if
She
when
did.
what if when Robbie got the SUV, Chase was just in there drunk, like his clothes all messed up, and he's like, "I haven't left. I haven't fuck this."
Had a beer waiting for him.
Yeah, top crowd.
Dude, that would have been great.
Just
That'd have been
a
great.
black eye and a fucking wife beater on. It's like, I got into it with some locals, dude. You don't fucking know who I am. You don't fucking care. No one cares.
Don't know me. The post show. So after the final rose, we're joined again by Chris. JoJo comes out, but of course it was mainly the Robbie show, at least initially, which was good because we didn't get to hear from him in the Men Tell All. Our listeners got to hear from him. Like he was still dealing with all of this, right?
Yo, dude, little blip there, buddy. The last 7 seconds lost you. What'd you say?
Oh, I think I saw that. So Robbie got the stage first, right? And so Chris was kind of asking him some questions, and this was the first chance that we got to see and hear from Robbie. Obviously, after everything had happened, our listeners heard from him on the podcast, but he was able to expand upon how he's been doing and the fact that really, yes, he's moved on with the help of family and friends, but he still was looking for some closure, right, from JoJo. And that,
brutal. That was brutal
sad.
when he asked her, "So do you still do you ever still picture what it would be like with us?" And I was like, "Oh no, Robbie, no, you don't ask that."
I know, man.
That was tough.
It's tough to. It's just because Robbie is such a good fucking dude. Like that. That's why it's hard.
And
but
it seemed like
also,
he was genuinely heartbroken. That was a genuinely heartbroken question.
Yeah, he was too, man. I think absolutely that's one clear takeaway from this season is that Robbie was genuine throughout. I mean, I don't think he was playing any games or anything like that. And further to that, I think he did actually fall in love with JoJo. So, I mean, that hurts. That sucks to get to the very, very, very end and then to have it not work out. But how JoJo explained it, like it made sense. Like she just had a connection that was deeper with Jordan and it had always been there and she couldn't kind of imagine her life without him. I guess at the end of the day, it's like she just picked him over Robbie. So if Jordan just didn't exist, Robbie would probably be the guy, which that's also tough. Tough.
Hey,
pill to
I got a
swallow.
couple questions for you because you know more about this show. How many months in advance do they shoot the show?
I shouldn't probably know that offhand. I don't know offhand, man, to be honest with you. I know, I believe it's a couple months, just the whole process, and then it starts airing and you have to remain silent, right? So that was like a lot of what you heard, whether
because
it's
Jordan and JoJo were talking about how they, for months, I didn't realize it was that far in advance.
Yeah, they couldn't publicly defend themselves. Totally.
They couldn't publicly defend, but also they can't really go hang out too much. Like they have to hang out in secret because
behind the scenes.
Yeah, people see them out at a restaurant. Come on, you can't go to Buca de Beppo, have some breadsticks, and everyone's like, "Oh, it looks like Robbie lost."
Totally. The social media will blow up. No, I mean that's a huge part of it. So like last Bachelorette, Caitlin Bristow, she picked this guy. I think his name was Sean. And as the season was airing, there had been some like leaks on her Snapchat. Like they had Snapchatted some pictures together, so it was clear that he was the guy who would ultimately win.
Oh.
So I think that can happen. Like it actually just did just a season ago. But yeah, man, you're not supposed to, of course. And so yeah, I mean, after the final rose, my other just kind of high level key takeaways, and then we can kind of. I want to hear.
I have one more question about the show.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Do you think people are sleeping with JoJo on that show? How many guys do you think she slept with?
I think she definitely slept with Robbie, and I don't know if I want to say I would be surprised, but I think it was probably just Robbie and Jordan. What do you think?
I have no idea, man, because there's so much you don't get to see.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
I mean, she was in love with both these dudes. They got to like that final stage. I mean, it just stands to reason.
Isn't that kind of weird? Wouldn't that be kind of weird for you if you were with a girl and she just had sex with another guy she was super into a couple days ago?
Dude, well,
That's a mind fuck, dude. I
we
can't.
could retroactively go back again that season that I'm referencing with Caitlyn. Like, she straight up had sex with this guy Nick, who I think is on Bachelor in Paradise now.
Oh yeah, that guy got runner up. They said twice.
He was the runner up that season to the guy she ultimately picked. But she had sex with that dude, and then went and basically had to tell all the other guys, like, I fucked up and I slept with this guy Nick.
What?
When we were drunk. Yeah, man. Like, it was very
like
interesting.
during the middle of the season.
This was towards the end, but like that was like when guys like Ben, because Ben was on that season. That's how he became the Bachelor. So like he was in the top. I want to say 4. Like a Sean, she was with. Nick was still there. I want to say maybe there was another guy there too, like Ben Z, like this big dude. And she, yeah, I think they all knew. You know, she had to tell him. Like, she felt like it was the right thing to do. And then again, she ended up picking that guy Sean, so I would assume that they hooked up too. So who knows, man? I mean, we're talking, we don't know any of this stuff. We're guessing here, but I mean, we're all humans, right? Like, if you were going to be on that show, I mean, if you were kind of a scummy dude, you could go on there and try to sleep with as many women as possible. But more likely than not, when it gets down to the final 3, you would assume that you're probably going to have some level of sexual contact, right? I mean, we're all adults here, so you would think. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Caitlyn was a fun season. That would be a fun one to look back on. Maybe do a special pod. But my final thoughts just on the final rose piece. So Robbie, with all that being said, it was sad to see him out there. I'm glad he got some closure face to face. At least he looked great. My man knows how to accessorize. He had like a pin and a pocket square and some socks that were all matching. Robbie, man, I love that guy. Great style.
Right. Easy.
And then Jordan and JoJo announced they're moving to Dallas, right? Yeah. So they got a house together.
Even that sounded fake when Jordan goes, yeah, we actually just got a house in Dallas. I'm like, why are you lying to me? Are you trying to sell me knives door to door? What are you doing?
Just his inflection. I feel like his voice, man. I get what you're saying.
Especially after, just to loop everything back in, especially after dealing with AT&T Uvers, and I had to keep talking to customer service people. That's who Jordan reminds me of, customer service. I just feel like I could picture me calling Jordan, and he's in like the customer service center, and I'm like, yeah, man, what's going on? You guys canceled on me. You said you're going to install it. It's been like 2 weeks, and I could just imagine Jordan going, hey, man, I'm really sorry to hear that. I know how frustrating that can be. And I feel for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a note on this ticket. And I'm just like, fuck you, man. What the fuck's up with my internet?
He's a political dude.
It's like, I mean, I understand you're frustrated. I would be frustrated in the same situation as you. That's how he sounds to me.
It is funny. The other thing, and I think this is my closing thought, is that they cannot drop the Aaron Rodgers shit, dude. Like, Chris Harrison a couple times during that final rose cuts away. And when we get back, we're going to try to figure out, what's going on with Aaron.
And it's one question. You guys talk? You don't? Okay, moving on.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's like, dude, awkward as hell, man. Like, what is that? That has to be the show, I guess, just trying to create something there. So, I don't know.
I think they just ask it because they know people are obsessed with celebrities, and they want. And
people want to know. So,
I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to come out or something and be like, hey, way to go. I read something about how Aaron Rodgers was asked about it, and he's like, I don't watch the show. I hope he's doing. He said something like, I hope he's doing well in the contest, or something like that.
That's how you really belittle something. It's just like you call it by like something that's not. It's really funny.
That's why, dude. Not to go back to what I said in the other podcast. That's why I don't understand Jordan, because I told you I watched that 1-minute interview before the Bachelorette, and he was asked all about his brother Aaron. And he did not, he was just like, oh yeah, he totally used to say relax to me. I remember that he used to be like, relax. And he was just playing into this. It was weird, man. And then it comes out on maybe he was told, I don't know, dude. I'm going to say the same exact thing I said in the other podcast. So just whatever, we'll just move on. But there's something weird about that relationship. I get that brothers cannot have a good relationship, but I don't understand why he acted as though they had a great relationship when they clearly have a terrible one. So it's just weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, these are some unknown questions. I'm sure People Magazine will be covering this for the next month or two as these guys get on Dancing with the Stars and whatever else they're going to end up doing.
Can't wait for Aaron Rodgers to explode on a reporter after a game when they ask him about his brother Jordan and his fiance JoJo Fletcher.
Oh man, that'll be good. That'll be good. But so and then it's Bachelor in Paradise time. So I know we'll have another pod chatting about that. The big kind of villain they kept alluding to again is Chad.
Yeah.
Chad.
I watched it, man. I won't say anything, but I watched it. I'm ready.
Perfect.
Ready to pod.
We'll talk about that. Chad is just hilarious, man. Chad too, I guess, stood up at that after the rose, right, and made his plea for Bachelor. I think we talked about that offline, but that was so disingenuous, man. Come on. That was just like, guys, I've also been in the military, and my mom recently passed away. Like, I'm actually a good guy. It's like, dude, like, you're not, though. Like, you're kind of a dick, right? I mean,
Dude,
at the end of the day.
I don't want to say anything because I watched Bachelor in Paris already, but when you watch it, we'll pod about it.
You'll
see, man.
Okay. It just seemed fake. It seemed like very convenient because that stuff is sad and like, dude, props to the troops. I mean, we love the troops, but it's like, come on, man, don't throw that out there as if to say like
Luke
this
was in the
makes me a good
military,
person.
Alex was in the military.
I know.
Like,
It just like it bastardizes them. It's just not. It's not a good look. The other thing. So Chad too. There was an article that came out last week that he bought up the domain names of all the Bachelorette contestants and is rerouting them to his Instagram. The Chad Johnson Instagram.
Dude, I told you, man.
I mean,
that guy is genuinely obsessed with Donald Trump.
Oh, dude, it's so funny.
He mentioned something, I forgot when, but he also he changed his Twitter handle to Real Chad Johnson. He already had a Twitter handle that was fine. And he changed to that. You know, Donald Trump's is Real Donald Trump, I think, or Real Donald J. Trump. And Donald Trump bought the domain to jebbush.com, which was like a hilarious thing during the primaries of the Republicans. Because when you would type in jebbush.com, it would go to Donald Trump's website.
Oh man, that's great.
So that's not like Chad. I don't think Chad's a very original guy at all. I think he sees certain things that people do, and he's like, "I'm going to do that. I'm going to say that."
Totally. Well, and people can follow you on Twitter at Jeff Keith, and you've been having a little back and forth with Chad because we're trying to get him on the podcast.
Trying to get him on the podcast. I don't think he's going to come on the podcast, but maybe after his flame dies, he'll
want to jump on, chat with us. But yeah, hey man, we'll see what happens. I think in the meantime, we have some awesome guests coming
And if Chad
up.
does listen to this, which I don't know, who knows, he probably doesn't, but if he does, I don't care. Like we said, I don't care if he comes on and just shits on us. I would love to have a back and forth with that guy.
Just come on and shit on us, man. It's
Fine with
like,
me.
yeah, because here's the thing: we're only going off of what we see on TV.
Yeah.
So if Chad comes on and he's like, "Listen, guys, like this is how I really am," I'm willing to listen to that. I'm willing to hear that out. You know what I mean? And I'm not closed-minded to be like, no, Chad, like, no, like anybody. I'm just not that type of dude. Like, if he can convince us that he's, like, maybe being portrayed a certain way, like, cool, I'm all ears. So, it's fun, man. It's all fun. Chad, I mean, he's in his lane right now, and he's enjoying his moment in the spotlight. So, we'll see how that goes, and I'm excited to chat some Bachelor in Paradise coming up. I'm excited to get these interviews done and up for our fans. And again, if everybody can just take a moment, if you enjoy us on iTunes, to subscribe so you stay up to date, leave us a review. And then if you want to follow us on Instagram at ENG Podcast, that's spelled out EANDG Podcast, you'll stay up to date on what's happening and whenever we get some new content up. Anything else you want to add, Jeff?
No, that's fine. They could also follow us. All my stuff's just my name, GeoffKeith. Yours is just your name, right?
Yep. And we have it in the show notes as well. And yeah, man.
Oh, and definitely email us at engpodcast@gmail.com. We're getting some together. We're going to start reading some on the podcast, responding to some of the emails we've gotten. We've gotten some funny ones. So engpodcast@gmail.com. Write us anything you want. Make fun of us. Write us a question. Whatever.
Awesome, man. I love it. Well, dude, it's good talking to you again. It's been a while, man. So we'll get going.
Watch Bachelor in Paradise. Now watch that immediately. We'll get another pod up quick.
That's the plan. Can't wait.
All right, man. Talk soon. Today's episode of the ENG Podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Clothing by Owl. All you Bachelor fans will recognize this name as they are the company behind the hugely popular Wine Bachelor and Yoga Pants tank top. What you may not know is that they give back a percentage of every item sold to Animal Rescue, and that notable Bachelor alums like JoJo Fletcher, Caitlin Bristow, Lauren Bushnell, Ben Higgins, and Nick Vale are all huge supporters. We're happy to offer our listeners 20% off when you visit clothingbyowl.com. Simply add the discount code ENG, that's EANDG, to save on all your Bachelor gear. And be sure to follow them on social media at Clothing by Owl.
Jeff and I are doggy dads, which is why we're so excited to be partnering with our newest sponsor, Puppies Make Me Happy. They have a super simple mission to make the happiest clothes on earth, which they do. And we know our listeners will love this brand just as much as we do. Plus, we're excited to help spread a little happiness ourselves by offering listeners 20% off all merchandise by using discount code ENG. That's EANDG at checkout. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Puppies Make Me Happy.
Ciao, 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 ciao.